But there's one more area to go a little deeper that also translates into giving and taking, which we may not have thought about, but it's important that you think about it. And again, I apologize, I'm going a little deeper than I usually want to go. But it's so important that I have no choice. There's a little deeper, more depth in understanding giving and taking. There's something called a right. Have you heard of that? The Bill of Rights. You know what that means, Bill of Rights? I have the right. I have the right, for example, to my body. My body is mine. It's my right. Don't touch me. I have a right to my body. I have a right to my watch. It's my watch. You have no right to take the watch from me. It's mine. I have a right to my house. You can't come into my house if I don't want you to, because it's my house. It's called a right. I have the right to my possessions. I have the right to speak. Don't tell me to keep quiet. It's my right. Then there's something called obligation. What does it mean, obligation? It means I am obligated to pay you back the loan that you gave me. You lent me $100. You are now obligated, I'm now obligated, to pay you back $100. It's an obligation. You have the right to collect 100. Could you take me to court and say, listen, I have the right to 100? Say, yes, of course. And I have the obligation to pay you back the 100. Is that correct? The same way, giving and taking are two sides of the same coin. Remember we went through that? All the relationships, there's giver, taker. Someone giving, someone taking. Also, the same is with obligation and right. The same pattern. For example, I'll give you an example. I have a right to my watch. So your obligation is what? Not to touch my watch. You're obligated not to touch my watch. And if I lend you my watch, now I have the right to take it back from you, and you're obligated to give it back to me. I have the right to my house, so you're obligated to stay away. Every time you have an obligation to me, I have the right to collect from you. And when I have a right, you have an obligation. It's two sides of the same coin. So again, let's take one example and keep that example in our head. If I lend you money, I lend you $100, that creates an obligation and a right. Correct? If I lend you money, it creates a right for me. I have the right to go after you to pay me that money, and it creates an obligation on you to give me that money. Obligation and rights. It's very interesting that when you look at the Torah never discusses our rights. Never. For example, Torah says, don't steal. It doesn't say, you as the owner of this watch have the right to your watch. It never says that. It says, it talks to the other person. You have an obligation not to steal. It doesn't say, for example, that as a parent, I have a right for my children to honor me. It doesn't say that. It says, Kaved et abicha v'et emecha. You're obligated to honor your parents. It doesn't say that as an employee, I have the right to collect my wages on time. It doesn't say that. Rather, it says, as the employer, you are obligated to pay your employees on time. Look at the entire Torah. There's no rights at all. There's obligations. Now, of course, every obligation, if the Torah says, I'm obligated to pay my employee, then my employee has the right to collect. But Torah never talks about the rights. It talks about the obligations. Look at the constitution of this country and any country. You will see they have the Bill of Rights. The opposite. The Constitution says you have a right to your land. You have a right to watch. You have a right to speak. You have a right to collect your money. Now again, when you have a right, that means the obligation on the other side. But they speak about the rights, not about obligations. What's the difference? What's the difference where the Torah talks about obligations and the Constitution talks about rights? So I'm going to tell you right now a very important principle. That a person who's focused on his rights is a selfish person. He's only looking at himself. What's my right? I have a right to my watch, to my land. I have a right to this. I have a right to that. I have the right to speak. I have the right. So who is that focused on? It's focused on me. It's focused on what I need, what my rights are. Where look at a person who's focused on his obligation. What's he focused on? He's focused on what he needs to do for someone else. That means a person who looks through the lens of obligation, he is what? What is he? He's a giver. And someone who looks at the lens of rights, he is a taker. A society that's built on obligation is a society that becomes like God. A society that's built on rights is the opposite of God. It's selfish. It's all about you. How come obligation is called like God? Why is that called giving? When is there an obligation? If you do something for me, you lend me $100, now I'm obligated to give you. Because I don't like free gifts. What happens when a person doesn't like a free gift and you give him a gift? What happens? You give someone a gift, he doesn't like gifts. What happens? You know what happens? He wants to give back. He wants to pay back. He feels an obligation to give you back because he doesn't like things for free. That's exactly how God made this world. He gave us and gave us and gave us. And you know what happens to us when God gives us? You know what should be our reaction? What should be our reaction when God gives us? Want to give back. If you're a selfish person and people give you, then what do? Nothing. So that's it. You only gave me that much. Your father gives you a car. He says, only that kind of car? You only spend $20,000 on my car? That's if you are a selfish person. If you are a person who gives and someone gives you a car for free, you say, oh my gosh, wow, you gave me a car? What can I do? What can I do? I'm obligated to do something for you. That means when I'm a selfish person and I receive, I don't want to give back. I don't feel obligation. But if I'm a giving person and I get something, then I feel the need to give back. Because I'm a giver. I'm not a taker. So when I act out of obligation, what does that make me? When I act out of obligation, it makes me like God. And when I act out of my own feelings, I like to sit in the sukkah. I enjoy the mitzvah. That has a little bit of you inside. You're doing it because you like it. It has to do with you. That could be selfish. When I do a mitzvah, for example, let's say I love to give charity. I love to give charity. And I give charity. Guess what? Part of that giving is for yourself because you love it. But if I have to give charity, God says, and I gave you your life, I gave you everything, you must give charity. Now I'm acting out of obligation. Who would do that? Who would do it out of obligation? A giver. When you do something because you like it, because it makes you feel good, then again, you're back to being a taker. But when you do something because you have to, because you owe something to someone, because he gave you, then you are a giver. That's why, Gadol metzuveh ve'oseh. Greater is the one who is commanded and does, because he's acting out of obligation, because that makes him a giver. Where a person does it on his own, it shows that he loves it. It's true. But he's doing it because he loves it. That means it's for him. That's not as great. And that's why when it comes to Judaism, to succeed, and that's the big mistake that maybe all of us make. We get up here, myself and others, you'll hear it in shul, you hear it on the Shabbat table, and people will speak about how wonderful it is to live a life of Torah, and how beautiful it is to learn or to keep Shabbat, and how wonderful it is to speak the way the Torah expects us to speak, and how wonderful it is to keep all of to be a Ben Torah. It's beautiful. And we talk about how sameach it is, and how fulfilling it is, and how much happiness you're going to have in your life because of it. Is that true? 100%. It's 100% true. But that's not the reason why we should keep the mitzvot. It's a mistake. We have to talk about it today. We have no choice. Because the street is so magnetic, trying to pull people in, trying to suck people in of your age, especially. They don't care about you. They don't care about your future. Believe me, the advertisers, they can care less about anything that's going on with your life. They care about one thing: how much money you're going to give them. So they'll pull you in. They'll suck you in anyway. Anything that makes you feel good. Listen, if I was able to make you feel good to do things, I know how to get to you. I know what your weakness can be. They look at your weakness and they'll suck you in. They want to sell you jeans. They'll put this stunning 18-year-old guy wearing those jeans. And somehow you're going to think you're going to be that guy. They want to sell you anything. They'll know what your weakness in life is. And they're going to go and they're going to take advantage of it. They don't care about you. So because the street is looking to bring you with their attention by, oh, we're going to make you happy. We're going to give you this. If you drink this, you're going to be so happy. If you smoke this, you're going to be so happy. If you do this, you're going to be so happy. The street is screaming at each guy here. I don't blame you guys. I don't blame anybody here. You guys are young. You're out there in the streets and everyone's telling you how I'm going to make you happy, how I'm going to give you such pleasure in life. And you guys say, oh, wow. Then you come to yeshiva and the rabbi says, oh, you have to do this. Are you nuts? Are you crazy? I have to do this. I don't want to do this. You know what they're telling me in the street? In the street, they don't tell me I have to do anything. They tell me, come. Let me show you what you are going to want. Let me show you your pleasures. They talk straight to you. You come at home, your mother says, you have to do this. What? Your rabbi says it's an obligation. You say, you guys are crazy. You don't care about me. The people out there care about me. They want to give me pleasure. You guys, you tell me what I have to do. That's why I have to get up here every week and say, Rabotai, the pleasure is here. There's no pleasure there. That's like a fisherman's net. where they have to attract the fish with the bait so that fish could come. But once you have the bait, once you got hooked, they tie the net and you're stuck. That's not pleasure. This is pleasure. And week after week, I say, Shabbat is pleasure, Berachot is pleasure, Torah is pleasure. But that's a big mistake. That's something we have to do today because we can't even get your attention because the street is so flooded. If I would get up here and say, Rabotai, we're obligated to do mitzvot, okay? We have an obligation, that's what it is. Shabbat Shalom. You guys would say, what does he think he is? Careless, doesn't care about us, doesn't want us to be happy, is looking to force things upon us. Kish, I'm out of here. I'm going to the street. And today, because we have no choice. It's pikuach nefesh. So we have to tell people, hello. God said this is good. But that's not the way we accept Judaism. In reality, it's a mistake. When Am Yisrael accepted the Torah, it was not based on what they wanted themselves. It was based Naaseh v'nishma. I'm committed. I'm obligated. The creator of the world has given me everything and more. And he says to me, I have chosen you to get close to me. And you say, what? I'm able to give something back? I'm able to do something that would make Kavyachol God get Nahat Ruach? Really? I can pay back all my obligations? You know how much obligation we have in the book? Every moment of breath, every eye we have, every ear that we have, our nose, all free, all day long, free. You know how much debt we have? You can't pay $100 billion for one eye. Every day, free, all day long, we're getting. God says, here's a way that I would be happy, Kavyachol, if you paid me back. And you say, wow, I'm able to do something for you? That's unbelievable. I'm in, I'm ready, it's my obligation. That's the life of a giver. Judaism is based on obligation, not good feelings. We don't do things because they feel good. We don't learn Torah because it feels good. We don't do mitzvot because they feel good. They do, but that's not why we do them. We don't keep Shabbat because it's good, it's resting, it's great, it's enjoyable. That's not why we do it. It's a mistake. We keep the Torah because we have to. Because it's our obligation. Because we're givers. We're not takers. We don't keep the Torah so we can take more from God, as if He didn't give us enough yet. We keep the Torah because we're giving back. We're giving back through obligation. That's why in this week's parasha, before the Torah tells us about giving of tzedakah, that we're giving from our heart to build the Mishkan, says Rashi, no. The first teruma, the first tzedakah that's given is mandatory. The first tzedakah you have to give. After you do what you have to do, you want to do extra, that's very nice. But that's not how you give. You give because you have to give. And guess what the first obligation of giving is in this parasha? What is it building? What are they collecting the Mahasida Shekel for? The first one, what did we say? Do you remember? What are they collecting for? The sockets. You know what the sockets are? They're the foundation of the Mishkan. You know what the message is? That to build the Mishkan and to build the foundation, It has to be done through obligation. After you want to give, you want to do extra, beautiful. But your first thing, the Mishkan represents every person. We are all a Mishkan. The foundation of a person, the sockets of a person is obligation. That's the number one requirement. That is that you say to yourself, I do things out of obligation, not because it makes me feel good. Not for selfish reasons, but to give back. And when you do it for that reason, oh, is it going to feel good? Because there's nothing as good as feeling like a giver. Torah should be our obligation that we return things to Hashem. What an honor. God gave us that merit that we could actually return to Him something. What could we return to Him? It's a joke. But He gave us such a privilege. And He says, if you do this, that makes me feel good. It's like a father who says to his son, if you get 100 in your test, if you do well in school this year, it's going to make me feel good. What are you making him feel good? What does he care if you do well in school? The answer is, he feels good when you're doing well. That's what God is telling us. I feel good when I see you doing good. That's the way we accept the Torah. Na'aseh v'nishma. Obligation. Shabbat shalom.